Hello friends, good evening to all. Is my voice clear today? Are you able to hear me? Somebody please
Yes,
confirm.
today.
Are you able to see my screen as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Just let's wait for 2 more minutes, friends. Let others also join. We'll start in sharp 2 minutes. One more request, friends. I would like to take this session as an interactive one. So wherever your participation is required, I would request you all to actively participate so that this session can be made very interesting both for you as well as for me as well.
Okay, sir.
Right, friends. So let's get started, friends, with this session. Today's day one. We will have a continuous session for the next 7 days from today for 40 minutes each. And we will go through some of the basic things first of all, and then we will go into the deeper subjects as we go along in this journey. So first of all, again, once again, I would try, first of all, like to welcome each and everybody into this session. And I do realize that in this session, we have some students, we have some interns, we have some practitioners as well. So being practitioners, before we start the session, I have one request to them that we have to realize that the students who are a part of this session, they need guidance right from the beginning. Some of the topics that we will be going to discuss in the coming few days, the senior practitioners may be completely aware of it. But still, for the sake of understanding of the beginners, let's start from their level so that even they can be together with us in this journey for the next 7 days. So in case if you know whatever things we are discussing here, if you are already aware of it, still also it is a good time to revise the things. It doesn't do any harm in your revising the things, right? So friends, to start with, we all know that homeopathy has the potential to give results. But despite that, we see that what kind of situations are we in today? What kind of situation homeopathy is in and what kind of situation the homeopaths are in. Despite having existed for over 200 years, still today, homeopathy is facing critics and allegations. They say that homeopathy doesn't have a scientific base. They say that homeopathy is a placebo therapy. They say that our medicine doesn't contain any active principle, it's just a placebo effect. So, what do you think, friends? Who is basically responsible if homeopathy still have to face critics and allegations even after existing for 200 years? Who is responsible for that? इसके लिए कौन जिम्मेदार है? What do you think, friends? Is it that homeopathy doesn't have the potential to give results, or is it that some way or the other we have failed to utilize that potential, and hence we end up facing this critics and allegation? I hope everybody will agree if I say that we have to blame ourselves for this pathetic situation that we are in today. As I said in the audio that I shared in the WhatsApp friends, before starting this project, I visited personally near about 75 colleges. And in these 75 colleges, I had taken seminars and sessions with the third year students, final year students, interns, and the PG students. There, when I was giving presentations, I had asked a question. In all the 75 colleges, the same question was asked. And not surprisingly, the answer for that question that we got was same in all 75 colleges. The question asked was, which is the most boring homeopathic subject that you study? And the answer that we got for this question was same in all 75 colleges. What do you think? What could have that answer be? क्या जवाब आया होगा जब ये पूछा गया कि सबसे बोरिंग होम्योपैथिक सब्जेक्ट कौन सा है जो आप पढ़ते हो? पूरे 75 कॉलेजेस से एक ही जवाब आया. Same answer from all 75 colleges. Organon and philosophy. But do you agree if I say that Organon and philosophy is the backbone on the basis of which our entire system has been built? How many of you agree with that? If I say that Organon and philosophy is the backbone on the basis of which our entire system has been built, do you all agree? Or is there anyone who disagrees with that? So basically, this knowledge of Organon and philosophy forms the basic foundation on which you have to construct your career. Isn't it? Now have a look at this building, friends. I'm sure that nobody would like to stay in such a kind of a building. The foundation is weak, it can fall anytime. Same is the condition with those homeopaths who are building their career, dispensing the patents, tonics, mixtures, combinations, multiple remedies. Their foundation is too weak. Even if they are building a huge tall building on that base weak foundation, it is bound to bite the dust someday or the other. चाहे आप कितनी भी ऊंची बिल्डिंग बना लो, ऐसे बेस पे जो मजबूत नहीं है, एक ना एक दिन वो नीचे आना है. So that insecurity always prevails when you don't have your strong basic foundation. And as far as homeopathy is concerned, organon and philosophy is the foundation. Now, why is that organon and philosophy is found boring to majority? सबको boring क्यों लगता है? Can anybody, if you also have felt that organon and philosophy was boring, then what can be the reason for that? What is your reason? Why it is boring? Why it sounds boring? Why it looks boring? And why it, majority feels that it is boring? What is the reason for that? कोई बताएगा? I said in the very beginning, friends, if it is an interactive session, you can also enjoy. I'll also be able to enjoy. क्यों बोरिंग लगता है ऑर्गेनॉन सभी को? कोई बताएगा? समझ नहीं आता है, बिल्कुल, और हार्ड लैंग्वेज है, बिल्कुल. Sometimes we can't relate. Definitely, that is also a problem. What else? I'll show you something interesting, friends, taken from Kent's lesser writings. This is taken from Kent's lesser writings. Hahnemann's organon is a strong, rich source of knowledge, but it is in long sentences and very condensed and difficult for many to understand. Isn't it? हम लोग जब स्कूल कॉलेज में पढ़ते थे फ्रेंड्स, व्हेन वी वर इन सेकेंड ईयर, हमारे क्लास के कुछ जो बच्चे हैं उनको जब रात को नींद नहीं आती तो ऑर्गेनॉन का किताब लेके जाते थे, अरे इसमें से 2 लाइन खोल के पढ़ लो, अपने आप नींद आ जाएगी. दैट वाज द सिचुएशन. 90% of the students used to go to washroom after the organon class. That was the pathetic situation. It's not because that organon is boring, it is because we fail to understand. And when we start understanding it, organon becomes the most interesting subject. Organon and philosophy becomes the most interesting subject. Now you don't believe, but after 7 days I will ask you, starting from today. So shall we start discussing some basic concepts of organon and philosophy to start with, which we all need to know? Shall we start with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm sharing the, see, we don't have any new discoveries or theories, friends. Whatever we will be sharing here, I'll give you a reference for that. The things that we are going to show you now is given in the lecture number 4 of Kent's lectures on homeopathic philosophy that we read in the second year. These are some basic concepts. Even if you don't believe, no problem, but try to understand it first. Later on, we will decide whether we have to believe it or not. So let's start with some of the basics. Now, before that, friends, can anybody tell me what is this? क्या है ये? कौन सा नंबर है? Can you see my screen? What number is this, friends? Which number it is? 6. Shashank sir is saying that it is 6. Hemant sir is saying that it is 9. What about others? What do you think? Is it 6 or 9?
6 और 9 कुछ भी हो सकता है.
कुछ भी हो सकता है, लेकिन अगर एक चूज करना पड़ा तो क्या चूज करेंगे? You have to choose one. You can't say that it can be both. From what you are saying, जी,
डिफिकल्ट है चूज करना.
अगर करने की अगर नौबत ही आ जाती, कोई और ऑप्शन नहीं है, तो किसके साथ जाएंगे आप? 6 के साथ जाएंगे, 9 के साथ जाएंगे?
6 के साथ जाएंगे.
चलिए ठीक है. Some people are saying that it is 6, some people are saying that it is 9. It depends on how we look at it exactly. But this is just a partial image that you are seeing. आप अधूरी चीज देख रहे हो, पूरी चीज मैं बताता हूं आपको. I'll show you the complete picture and then tell me whether it is 6 or 9. Now tell me, is the complete picture?
It's 9.
It's 9.
Yes.
No doubt now.
क्योंकि आजू बाजू के दिख रहे हैं अभी.
बिल्कुल, मतलब पहले आपको आधी अधूरी चीजें दिख रही थी, इसलिए क्लैरिटी नहीं था.
हाँ, तो वही आप क्लियर करोगे.
Exactly, that is what my point is. See, today in market you can see that n number of people are following n number of methodologies. They all have different understanding, they all have different perception, they all have different methodologies. The reason is that they all have a partial vision. उनको आधी अधूरी चीजें समझ में आई है और उन्हीं के आधार पे वो लोग प्रैक्टिस करते हैं. लेकिन जिस दिन हम सबको पूरी चीजें समझ में आ जाएगी. The day we all learn the complete thing, we all will have a common methodology, we all will have a common understanding, we all will have a common unity which we lack today. हमारे अंदर यूनिटी इसीलिए नहीं है, कोई इस मेथोडोलॉजी को फॉलो कर रहा है, कोई उस मेथोडोलॉजी को फॉलो कर रहा है. क्या ऑर्गेनॉन में लिखा है, क्या फिलोसफी में लिखा है, किसी को फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. सब अपनी अपनी ज्ञान बांट रहे हैं. एंड द for the same reason, friends, you will be surprised to know that whenever I join any public platform, any Telegram group or WhatsApp group, and the day when I start asking queries and questions, they immediately remove or block me because they don't have an answer to them. जब उनके पास सवाल नहीं होते हैं तो वो निकाल देते हैं. पीके मूवी देखा है आप लोगों ने, सब लोगों ने? आमिर खान की मूवी निकली थी.
Yes, sir.
And coincidentally, friends, very coincidentally, my name is Praveen Karthikeyan. तो अगर आप मेरे नाम का फर्स्ट तो लेटर्स भी निकालेंगे ना तो वो भी पीके ही होगा. तो देखिए, जब मैं सवाल उठाता हूँ लोग मुझे बैन करते हैं, ब्लॉक करते हैं, क्योंकि उनके पास जवाब नहीं होता. आज एक पीके सवाल उठा रहा है, कल हजारों पीके सवाल उठाएंगे, कितने लोग को ब्लॉक करेंगे? आप लोग सवाल पूछने की हिम्मत करो, क्योंकि ये आपकी करियर का सवाल है, आपके लर्निंग का सवाल. इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ योर लर्निंग, योर करियर. सो यू हैव टू लर्न टू डेयर टू बी वाइज एंड लर्न टू आस्क क्वेश्चंस. Learn to ask, don't accept anything blindly. Even today, whatever we are going to discuss, there is no liability to believe it blindly. Dare to ask questions, dare to argue. Then only we will be able to have a consolidated true knowledge which can benefit us and which can benefit our patients as well. So I'm starting with some of the basic concepts of Organon and philosophy. Friends, listen to this carefully. So when we talk about a human being, a man is made up of two planes. A man is made up of two planes. The outermost plane is called as the materialistic plane, and the innermost plane is called as the dynamic plane. The materialistic plane consists of all the cells, tissues, organs, blood vessels, and nerves. The dynamic plane consists of the vital force, which is the central controlling unit, then our will and emotions, then our intellect and understanding. Now these two planes, the materialistic plane and the dynamic plane, they are interconnected with each other. They cannot exist in isolation. एक दूसरे के बिना वो नहीं exist होते. Without materialistic plane, there is no dynamic plane, and without dynamic plane, there is no materialistic plane. I was watching one video on YouTube, friends, a long time back. There, a politician was, taking a meeting with the other members, and on table, in front of the camera, within a fraction of a second, he died. He expired completely. Call gone in just a fraction of a second. What happened? He was an old man, very old man. So as the old age progresses, the vitality has a, what do you call it, limitation. The vitality also, to when the person grows older and older and older, the vitality diminishes, and there comes a point when vitality completely gets exhausted. The moment vitality gets exhausted, the materialistic plane also stops, dies. The person dies immediately. And the same thing happens in severe major accidents. In severe major accidents, when irreparable damage happens to the materialistic plane, which cannot be repaired, and it is lost, it is exhausted, the dynamic plane also exhausts immediately. So the dynamic plane and the materialistic plane cannot exist in isolation. One has to be there for the presence of others. एक दूसरे के बिना existence नहीं है इन दोनों का. So when we combine that materialistic plane and dynamic plane, we call it as the man as a whole. So if you look at it in this way, the vital force is at the center, which is the controlling unit. Then we have the mental plane consisting of our will and emotions. Then mental plane consisting of our intellect and understanding. So this will and emotions and intellect and understanding taken together constitutes the mental plane. Then comes the physical plane. right? So now what is the role of skin, friends? What is the most important function of skin that we read in pathology या physiology? Skin का सबसे important function क्या है?
Protection.
Sorry?
Protection from
Protection from
external
what? Correct.
external
Protection is the
environment.
correct answer. Protection from what?
Protection from external environment, from
Protection from
microorganisms.
anything externally that can cause harm. Isn't it? Yes or no? Is it clear so far, friends?
Yes.
Whatever we have discussed, is it clear so far? Please confirm in the chat box at least. Okay. So when we say that skin, the main function of skin is protection, can we say that skin is basically protecting the materialistic plane? The whole materialistic plane is being protected by skin, isn't it? It protects the body from external harmful agents, external pathogens, anything that can cause disease. The skin protects that from entering into the body. The skin basically acts as a protective covering for the materialistic plane. The whole materialistic plane, skin protects it, isn't it? Yes or no, friends? Please confirm. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? देखिए हम लोगों ने भी थोड़ी देर पहले डिस्कस किया मटेरियलिस्टिक प्लेन होता है, डायनामिक प्लेन होता है। तो ये मटेरियलिस्टिक प्लेन है वो बाहर से जो हमें दिखता है वो सारी चीजें हैं, सेल्स है, नर्व्स, टिश्यूज, ब्लड वेसल्स, ऑर्गन, सारी चीजों से बना है। तो ये सारी चीजों को प्रोटेक्ट करता है हमारा स्किन। स्किन बेसिकली प्रोटेक्ट्स द मटेरियलिस्टिक प्लेन। नाउ व्हाट प्रोटेक्ट्स द डायनामिक प्लेन देन? स्किन को अगर मटेरियलिस्टिक प्लेन को अगर स्किन प्रोटेक्ट करता है तो डायनामिक प्लेन को कौन प्रोटेक्ट करता है? The dynamic plane is also protected. Listen to this very carefully, friends. अब सुनिए, ध्यान से सुनिए. The dynamic plane is also protected by a protective covering, which is called as the dynamic protective covering. Keep this always in mind. The dynamic protective covering protects the dynamic plane. What this dynamic protective covering is and how it is built, we will see that later. But as of now, to begin with, just keep in mind that just like skin protects the materialistic body, the dynamic plane is protected by the dynamic protective covering. Correct? Understood so far? Is it clear so far, friends? कोई डाउट है, किसी को पूछना है? आगे बढ़े? चलिए, now I have a question, friends. जिनको आंसर आता है प्लीज रेस्पॉन्ड. What is dynamic protective covering? We'll see that later. Just for the time being, just understand that just like skin protects the materialistic plane, similarly at dynamic level there is a dynamic protective covering. For the time being, just keep that in mind. What that dynamic protective covering is, we will see that later. Dynamic, please repeat dynamic plane. Dynamic plane consists of the vital force, then the will and emotions, and our intellect and understanding. These three things constitutes our dynamic plane. What the dynamic plane is and what the dynamic protective covering is, we will see that later. But as of now, to start with, keep in mind that the dynamic plane is protected by the dynamic protective covering. Now I have a question, friends. Those who know the answer, they can respond. According to Organon, we read that when the vitality of a person gets deranged, he becomes sick, right? Now my question is, according to Organon, what deranges the vital force? कौन बताएगा? What deranges the vital force according to Organon? Inesimal force. What kind of inesimal force? Inesimal in the sense harmful, anything that can do harm. What kind of? Materialistic force or a dynamic force? Dynamic. Positive or negative? External dynamic influence. What kind of external dynamic influence? Positive or negative? So we can say that what is given in the organon is that the vital force is deranged by external negative dynamic influence, or we can say that external negative dynamic modific agent. Correct, correct, correct. External negative dynamic modific agent or external inicimal force. Right. Now, what do you mean by this dynamic influence? कौन बताएगा what is dynamic influence? Do you all believe in God? How many of you are there? जो नास्तिक है क्या कोई इस ग्रुप में? Do we all believe in God? Do we all believe in God?
Yes.
So when you go to a temple or when you go to a church or when you go to any religious place and you pray there, what do you get from there? वहां से क्या मिलता है आपको? What do you get from there when you go to temple, when you go to church, or when you go to any mosque or any religious place and you pray there? Positive vibe. It's an energy. Positive energy. That positive energy is materialistic in nature or dynamic in nature? That positive energy that we are talking about, is it materialistic or dynamic? It is dynamic in nature. So that is called as positive dynamic influence. There are various other sources from where we can get this positive dynamic influence. What are those sources? Now this dynamic influence we talk about, the dynamic influence is of two types. Dynamic influence that we are talking about is of two types. One is positive dynamic influence and next is negative dynamic influence. So let's see some examples of positive dynamic influence. One is praying. Love, correct, love, happiness, yoga, meditation. Yoga and meditation will also give you a lot of positive energy. Love, happiness will give you. There are some people, friends, you must have seen in YouTube, they call themselves as motivational speakers. You must have seen that thousands and thousands of people go and attend their seminars. So they also get a kind of positivity, positive vibes from the speaker. That is also a positive dynamic influence, isn't it? ये याद है आप लोगों को ये फाइनल वाला पिक्चर, the last picture that I have shown. Do you remember this? क्या है ये? What is this, friends? जादू की, देखा नहीं आपने मूवी है? मुन्ना भाई MBBS. जादू की क्या है? जादू की? What is this? जादू की झप्पी. Do you believe that a simple hug from someone who you love can give you positivity? Do you agree with that? Do you believe in that? अगर आपका बच्चा, अगर आप टेंशन में हो, आप स्ट्रेस में हो, आपका बच्चा दौड़ के आके आपको गले लगाता है, पॉजिटिविटी मिलता है कि नहीं मिलता है? आप स्ट्रेस में हो, आपका लाइफ पार्टनर आपको गले लगाता है या आपका कोई चाहने वाला आपको गले लगाता है, आपके पेरेंट्स आपके गले लगते हैं, they give you a hug. Does that give you any positivity? So these are the sources from where you can acquire positive energy. There are many other sources. Anything that gives you happiness. अभी कल जो those are interested in cricket, अभी 2 दिन पहले मैच हुआ था ना इंडिया और पाकिस्तान का, 3-4 दिन पहले. इंडिया जीत जाती है, अरे कितना खुश होते हैं हम लोग, कितनी पॉजिटिविटी मिलती है. तो इवन अ सिंपल थिंग, एंजॉयबल थिंग, यू गो आउट विद योर फैमिली, आप फैमिली के साथ गार्डन में घूमने चले गए, वहां से भी पॉजिटिविटी मिलती है. खुल के हंस लो, करेक्ट सिद्धार्थ सर, करेक्ट, लाफिंग gives you a lot of positivity. So these are various sources from where you can acquire this positive energy. What about negative energy? Then what about negative energy? Anger, fear, sorrow, suppression, depression, weeping, disappointment, ego, jealousy, grief, hatred. These are all the sources from where we get this negative energy. Now this negative, do you agree if I say that, listen to this carefully, do you agree if I say that positive dynamic influence has a positive effect upon the body and negative dynamic influence has a negative effect upon the body? Do you agree with that?
Yes, agree.
Correct, right? So tell me one thing, friends, When I say that positive dynamic energy has got a positive effect upon the body and negative dynamic energy has got a negative effect upon the body, the effect that we are talking about, is it acting at a materialistic level or a dynamic level? This energy, it is at dynamic level, isn't it? Dynamic, it acts at a dynamic level and its influence can be seen on the materialistic level as well. The influence, the reaction can be seen at a materialistic level, but basically this energy acts upon the dynamic level, right? So let's now understand how a person is made sick. Listen to this very carefully, friends. We talked about the dynamic protective covering. Now in nature, there are various sources from this negative dynamic energy can come. And such negative dynamic influence has the ability to act upon our vitality and cause its derangement. I'll repeat it. The negative dynamic energy or the negative dynamic influence has the ability to act upon the vital force and derange the vital force, thereby making a person sick. But when the person is in state of health, listen to this very carefully. When the patient is in state of health, the dynamic protective covering, if it is strong, then what this dynamic protective covering will do is that it will not allow the negative dynamic influence to act upon the vitality. It will not allow. It prevents the dynamic protective covering when it is strong. It prevents the negative dynamic influence to act upon the vitality. Now, when the dynamic protective covering becomes weak, then the external negative dynamic influence is allowed to act upon the vitality, and that tends to derange the vitality, hence making a person sick. Is this clear? Is this clear, friends?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So basically, it is the strength of the dynamic protective covering that will decide whether the person is going to become sick or not. The moment the strength of the dynamic protective covering becomes weak, external negative energy acts upon the vitality and thereby will derange the vitality. Now, कोई सवाल आया आप लोगों के दिमाग में? Are you getting any questions, friends, at this stage? ये सवाल नहीं आ रहा है आप लोगों के दिमाग में कि डायनामिक प्रोटेक्टिव कवरिंग की स्ट्रेंथ वेरी कैसे होता है, स्ट्रॉन्ग कब बना रहता है, वीक कब होता है, क्या चीजें हैं, व्हाट आर द थिंग्स दैट brings down the strength of the dynamic protective covering, what are the things that boost up the strength of the protective covering? ये सवाल नहीं आ रहा है आप लोगों के दिमाग में? आ रहा है ना? No. That dynamic protective covering is not susceptibility. Susceptibility is something different that we will go discuss tomorrow. The susceptibility comes into play only when the dynamic protective covering has become weak. आपने ये दीपावली में जो पटाखे फोड़े, बम फोड़े, क्रैकर बम होता है, वो सुतली बम जो होता है, फोड़े आप लोगों ने? Have you burned those crackers, friends? Bomb? बहुत फोड़े हैं. If I am keeping one such sutli bomb or that cracker in my almari or almara and I am keeping it locked, is it safe or is it dangerous? अगर मैंने ऐसे पटाखे लाके अपने घर में रखा है, अलमारा में बंद करके रखा है, चाबी मेरे पास है, तो सेफ है या डेंजरस है? सेफ रहेगा. क्यों डेंजरस होगा आशीष सर? क्यों डेंजरस होगा? जब तक वो फायर के कांटेक्ट में नहीं आएगा वो तो नहीं अपने आप जलने वाले. Unless the crackers doesn't come in contact with any source of fire, it is safe. क्या रिस्क है? कोई रिस्क नहीं है. So the almara is like our body, and the crackers kept inside it is our susceptibility. Susceptibility will not be able to produce the disease as long as it doesn't get exposed to exciting factors, triggering factors. When triggering factors come in contact with the susceptibility, then only the person is made sick. We'll discuss that later in detail tomorrow, what exactly the susceptibility is. But whatever we have discussed today so far, is it understood? What it means by materialistic plane, what it means by dynamic plane, what is the role of dynamic protective covering? Is this understood? Now, in which aphorism we read about the function of vitality, friends? The material organism, without the vital force, is capable of no sensation, no function, no self-preservation. It derives all sensation and perform all functions of life solely by means of the immaterial being, the vital principle which animates the material organism in health and in disease. Aphorism number 10. So vital force is basically responsible for maintaining the status of health of a person, maintaining the healthy status, maintaining a person healthy. Vital force is responsible. As long as the vital force is in order, it will ensure that the body enjoys normal sensation and normal functions and it remains in a state of health. The moment vitality gets deranged, susceptibility in that person becomes activated, and when then that person come in contact with triggering factors, he develops disease. We'll see that later today with the help of some simple examples. So, but whatever we have discussed today, is this understood, friends? Any doubt for anyone with respect to whatever we have discussed today? जो आज हमने डिस्कस किया था, कैसा था आप लोगों का जर्नी? इंटरेस्टिंग था या बोरिंग था?
इंटरेस्टिंग है सर, इंटरेस्टिंग है. We will.
तो अभी हमारा टाइम ऑलमोस्ट खत्म हो चुका है फ्रेंड्स, यहाँ से कंटिन्यू हम लोग कल करेंगे. And anybody has any kind of doubt, please don't hesitate to ask. We will continue this journey from here tomorrow. We will see what is the role of susceptibility, what is the role of exciting factors, and what is the role of medicines, what to expect from our medicines, where we are directing our medicines. All these things we will discuss tomorrow. So thank you and good night to all friends. This recording will be shared in your WhatsApp group if you want to listen to it again. And if you have liked it, if you want to share that video with your friends, most welcome, and invite them also to join for the remaining journey. So thank you friends, and I would be looking forward for your feedbacks in the WhatsApp group. Good night to all.